What's up, guys? So sorry about the audio, it might be a little loud. Guy next to us has his reefer going, but today we're gonna change our belts out, and it's a really easy job to do. Well, at least I say it is. I've seen it done on video and it looks pretty easy. It's never as easy when you do it yourself. I might bang some knuckles up a little bit, but other than that, it should be a pretty easy job, and I wanted to show you guys how to do it. One thing you'll need is a breaker bar. I'm using my torque wrench. It needs a 1/2" ratchet or end or whatever this is called. As you can tell, I'm not a mechanic. I just like to do it myself. And then a 4" extension. You're going to need this 4" extension to be able to get the second belt off on the closer to the engine. I'm going to squeeze the GoPro in here on the engine and kind of show you guys where you'll need to torque down at to get the belts off. Should be an easy job to do. We had this done on our owner's truck a long time ago, and it looked pretty complicated, so I didn't try to do it myself then. Watching the mechanic do it, he took one of the pulleys completely off to get the belts off, which, you know, completely scared me on trying to do it on our truck. But then Bob and Linda Cappy, they did a video on it and didn't have to pull the pulley off. So I don't know what that mechanic was doing. It should be an easy job. We just got to loosen the tension on the tensioners, pull the belts off, put the new ones on, make sure everything's lined up, and we should be good to go. So some kind of breaker bar and one extension. You don't need the extension for the thicker belt, but you will need this for the belt back behind it. So this is all you'll need. We're gonna give it a shot today and hope everything goes smooth because we gotta run tomorrow. All right, so here we got our two belts. We got our alternator belt, which here's our alternator and our AC condenser. Then I believe this is considered your water pump belt. I could be wrong. It's your fan belt. What we need to do is put our socket inside of this hole right here. Then there is a second one back there for our second belt right here. So this pulley does this belt, that pulley does this belt. Take my extension off first. All right. So I got the tension off of that one. Just got to work this belt out from all the tight spots. And then just spin your fan around, working the belt off of each blade so you can get the belt out of there. Alright, so we got the old belt out, pretty easy to do. We're going to take the second belt out now. And it's not in bad condition. You can see, like, I got no cuts, no gouges. Groove condition looks fairly good. It is starting to look worn a little bit on the outside grooves, but overall the belt's in good condition. But it's squeaking a lot. They just start squeaking over time. They get stretched out a little bit and they don't fit as tight as they used to. We have 230,000 miles on our truck, and on these belts on our owner's truck we changed them out at about 180. The belts look good, but they're squeaking like hell every time they get wet or when it rains. It's just annoying. So we're gonna go ahead and put the new ones on. Now let me get the second one off. Next we're going to be using our extension rod to be able to get to the second belt. Alright, now we got the second belt loosened. We got our second belt off. This is the longer of the two. Again, I mean, it looks fine. There's no cuts or breaks or anything. just, you know, a little discolored, a little worn out, stretched out a little bit. So we're going to keep these in case we ever have one break. You always want to have the spares on hand just in case, you know. So these will become emergency belts, and that would be just to get us to a shop to be able to buy new ones. It's basically reverse the process. We're gonna put the new ones back on. Bless you. My assistant is sneezed. All right, so it's basically reverse process. Put the small, skinnier, longer one on first. Scuffed up any knuckles yet, so
as soon as you say it.
Yeah, as soon as I say it, right? Now I will post a picture of the diagram of how these go back onto the pulleys, just so you can have for reference. But basically, whenever there's grooves, that's where your groove parts go in. Wherever there's a flat surface pulley, that goes on the back side. So I'm gonna work it around the belt again to get it back on, and we're putting this one on first. Alright, so we got the belt somewhat put on. There's only one more pulley that I need to put it on, but I'll need to loosen the tension on the tensioner to be able to get it on that last one. We'll see if we can't get the GoPro in there so you can kind of see what we're doing. Alright, so we got the first belt on. The most important part is to go through and look at each pulley and make sure the belts are on the grooves. If those are all on the grooves, most likely everything else is going to spin in place. But you always want to make sure your belts are perfectly centered on the pulley and not sitting off to one side and maybe it got mixed in the other grooves. So as long as it's perfectly centered on the pulley, it should be good. Now we're going to put the shorter, fatter belt on. I will leave part numbers in the description for you guys if you want to go pick some up to have some on hand. Also, you could use the last 6 of your VIN. Any Freightliner you go into or a Detroit dealer, give them the last 6 of your VIN and they should be able to pull up the correct part numbers for these. So I'm going to do the same thing with this, work it around the fan belt, and then put it in its grooves. Alright, so on the second belt, I had to have Heather's help on it. I got it all worked in for everything but on the fan belt, or the fan pulley. Then I had Heather go on the other side while I loosened the tension on this side and had her put it on there. And I'll show you where I'm talking about. Right there, that blue part, that's your fan pulley. And right to the left there is where the belt is. I just put the belt over the blue part, had everything else lined up in the grooves, and then I used my breaker bar or my pry bar that I almost hit myself in the eye with, and had Heather on the other side, and then she put it on. One thing I forgot to mention that I did do while I had all the belts off, I went around and I spun all the pulleys to make sure they spun freely, there was no crazy weird noises or grinding, or they just all spun very freely. So we know we don't have any problems with the pulleys. It's absolutely a belt thing. Alright, everything looks to be pretty intact. I'm gonna have Heather start the engine up and make sure we don't lose a belt. Alright, the moment of truth. I'm gonna have Heather crank it up. Go ahead, babe. everything looks good. No more squeaking. It was a simple job. There was a couple complications that I ran into that I wanted to share with you guys. One of them was not having a whole lot of room to use that tensioner bar to be able to loosen the tension pulleys. That was one problem I had. Having a second person help for that second belt was absolutely, you definitely need a second person. It definitely helps having that person while you pull the tension, because like I said, I did not have a lot of room to get the tension in there. I had to get the belt on kind of like halfway, loosen my tension bar, and then tension again in order for Heather to be able to get it all the way on the fan pulley. It was an easy job, you know. I wouldn't do it the same day that you got to pick up in the afternoon or something, just because it might make you late, but you know, I was pretty confident we could get it done today, even though we had a pickup tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it took less than an hour.
Yeah, it was less than an hour to do. It's hot out, you know, it'd be better if it was a lot cooler out, probably would have been an easier job, but overall, pretty simple job to do. We're probably good for another 200,000 miles until we'll have to change those again. We'll leave the part numbers down in the description if you want to look them up. Different year models may have different part numbers, so I highly recommend using the last 6 of your VIN to get the parts. Any Freightliner, I mean, it's a popular engine out there right now, so the belts are pretty readily available. I hope you guys liked the video. Thanks for watching and subscribing.
Until our next video.
Peace, love, and expediting.